Hello. I'm making true on my word for once and actually getting a build video out within a couple days of saying, hey, I should probably make a build video. Today we're doing revisions, technically, where I have made multiple videos on Caliban's hand prior, but I'm just gonna make revisions to how I've built this. So, that being said, Caliban's Hand is a relatively simple exotic from Season of the Haunted. What it basically boils down to is proximity knives on kill, ignite, on hit, scorch, and if they completely whiff and sit on the ground for their full time, will give you most of your melee back. However, that being as simple as it is, can be overcomplicated into a very ignition-centric berserker type hunter. Gamblers or marksmen doesn't really matter. I like the failsafe of gamblers because knock them down is a little bit jankety with giving you your melee back. But with that being said, melees are very locked in. You're forced to run proximity knives if you are going to run any of these. Pick a different exotic, in all honesty, because this thing, Caliban's Land only works with proxies. Unfortunately, I would love to use lightweight knives. I would love to use weighted throwing knives for this, because both of those have way more unique synergy than proximity knives of all things. But like, is what it is. We're handed what we're handed. Grenades don't particularly matter. I run normal grenades for this variation of the build. However, you can run healing grenades in place of this, and I will show you what I would replace for Empyrean if you really want to start setups for Empyrean. Knock 'em down and Gunpowder Gamble are kind of not locked out. Knock 'em down is. Correction. Knock 'em down and Ember of Torches are the two things that I would not replace throughout this entire build, or at least within aspects and fragments. Gunpowder Gamble is just here for the sake of synergy. Fun fact, for those of us who don't know, Gunpowder Gamble technically counts as an ignition underneath the game's code. Now, that comes with an exception of sometimes it counts as a grenade, sometimes it counts as a ignition. It's very strange and it's very jankety, but is what it is. Counts as an ignition, counts as a grenade. So, that's why we're running mostly ignitions things, besides the fact that Caliban's Hand benefits greatly from them. Ember of Wonder is mostly here because I run heavy-handed with Caliban's Hand, so you can technically make 2 orbs from 1 melee, which is kind of handy. Ember of Eruption is just for the increased AoE. It affects both Gunpowder Gamble and Caliban's Hand ignition, so I just find it kind of handy. Ember of Char is not the most helpful, but ultimately there's nothing I would really change it for. It's also a nice stat boost, but still, wouldn't really change it for much. Because it can have some weird things go on with Caliban's Hand, where the scorch that spreads can occasionally just ignite because of Caliban's. It's something weird with how the game registers Caliban's ignition damage. It technically just does 100 scorch, and then will accidentally cause ignitions on already scorched targets. However, there is another way that you can build this. Ultimately, if I were to replace anything for the Empyrean in this setup, I would probably do Ember of Eruption. But if you want to ignore these 2 ignition-based fragments, you can very much just go for Mercy, Empyrean, and Searing, where Searing is your income of fire sprites. This makes it so Mercy makes it so they have restoration, and then this allows you to chain it. And you can technically run healing grenades, and bam, you have a very solid healing setup with a lot of ignitions. Of course, Gunpowder Gamble becomes less necessary as you remove the synergy between the fragments, but I still think it's valuable, but you could also run on your mark if you ever reach this point of just like full Empyrean like restoration things. It's inconsequential. It's just whatever at that point. I just think having synergy between all the ignition stuff is more valuable than not having it at all. Mods are relatively simple, and I'm going to skip over most of this. Ashes to Assets is interesting with Gunpowder Gamble, where it counts for more super energy when you have Gunpowder Gamble. Don't know why. It's very strange, but ultimately you can run hands-on, just kind of whatever you're using more, whatever. If you don't have Gunpowder Gamble, you don't technically have to run this anymore. But everything else in this slot can realistically work outside of like most of these in between mods. Whatever siphons you need, whatever scouts and heavy ammo finders and all that. Uh, these are interesting. Heavy handed is the only one that I really care about in this set, but focusing strike is a neat influx of class ability energy because, as you can see, I don't run a whole lot. Uh, Otherwise, momentum transfer is just an interesting way to get back more melee energy. If you're running heavy into heavy into melees, run impact induction. If you're running a normal grenade, you can run bolstering. It might seem a little excessive though, and if you have the space, grenade kickstart on a restoration setup ain't half bad. Uh, Invigoration and powerful attraction are a neat little combo, um, albeit kind of unnecessary and a very much like contingency plan for the contingency plan, where Gambler's Dodge is a contingency to knock him down. Invigoration and powerful attraction are the contingency that Gambler's Dodge not working, and you're just picking up an orb. Same thing with Outreach. That is also included in contingency for contingency thing. Though, utility kickstart is just here for the sake of, you know, having a little bit more class ability energy. Because as you can see, still don't run a lot. Though in theory you can run like a time dilation, you can run a Reaper, really whatever you want can technically fit in that slot. But ultimately I suggest running into resilience, discipline, and then a little bit of strength. I got to 100 strength purely by accident. So like I don't know. I would prioritize resilience, then discipline, then probably strength or mobility, depending on how much you like one or the other. And it's probably recovery past that, intellect in the last. However, there's an interesting case in weaponry here. Tiku's divination has an interesting interaction with gunpowder gamble, where its hip fire arrows can track it, making it, I think, the more interesting choice for this build. Um, Tiku's divination is also a very like strong bow and very explosive, so it kind of fits into the entire theme of causing a whole bunch of explosions and just being a little chaotic hunter. Albeit you can realistically point at a solar weapon and it'll probably be fine. Like I used to run Zali's Bane, Callus Mini Tool could probably do fine. If you're running a restoration build, Tommy's might actually work, but I wouldn't suggest it because it kind of interrupts the flow of Tommy's. Um, I used to run Taraba, Sunshot. At one point, I ran Ariana's way back in the day. I don't know. There's some you can point at a thing and it'll work, but Tiku's is just an interesting case. Otherwise, that's the build. That's my revising done for the day. Uh, I'm going to try and get a stasis build out probably within the next couple days. I have some interesting things to share. But otherwise, that's all I have right now. Y'all have a lovely evening, and I'll see y'all next time.